What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Random Video Blog, where every single Friday I, Graham G.S. Matthews, run down my rambling thoughts in the wrestling world, share a few stories, etc., etc. Today I'm back with another book review, my first one in a while. Today we're talking Justin Roberts' autobiography, Best Seat in the House, your backstage pass through my WWE journey. Justin Roberts, of course, if you couldn't tell from the front cover there, great front cover, was a former WWE ring announcer and had been for a very long time. He'd always been my favorite ring announcer, and that's probably blasphemy to some people. Oh, how could it not be Howard Finkel or Lillian Garcia, blah, blah, blah. I basically grew up on Justin Roberts as my ring announcer when I started watching wrestling in 2008, because that was when he transitioned from ECW over to SmackDown. And he was on SmackDown when I first started watching, before going to Raw when Lillian Garcia left in 2009. And even when she came back in 2011, he stayed on Raw through his through the remainder of his run until he left in 2014. And I always enjoyed his ring announcing, and you could tell that he cared. You could tell that he was a fan, and you could tell that he put effort into his announcing. And it wasn't like every other, and I can't say every other announcer today, because there are some that are pretty talented. I like Mike Rome. Greg Hamilton's good too. I like Mike Rome. JoJo's, she's good. I mean, I don't know. I'm just more of a male ring announcer guy than a female ring announcer, but that's just me. It feels like a lot of people just phone it in. Or they either have no idea what they're saying, or they just don't give a shit. It was very obvious that Justin Roberts gave a shit, and that he was a fan, and that he would do everything in his power to make each announcement unique. And the cool thing about this book is that not only am I a fan of Justin Roberts, but you're able to see that experience, that just everything that went into his announcements, what he put into his announcements, and he talks all about the process, which is super cool, into what he did to make each announcement unique and feel special for the performers, for the audience, and just everything else about the business. The guy is so knowledgeable about the business because he's a fucking fan. He's a fan at the end of the day, and that's so important. And fans gravitate towards fellow fans, especially if they're in the industry. And you could tell that Justin was a fan. Not even to read. You don't even have to read his book. You should, but you don't even have to read the book to tell that the guy's a fan, or at least was. And I'm sure he still is. But just his WWE journey. And again, he talks all about growing up, and he doesn't have the most like, oh, I had to struggle through my throughout my life and all this other stuff, but his backstory, his childhood is very interesting to see how he kind of got into the business, what drew him to professional wrestling. The story of his dad getting sick was really, really sad, especially for those that have lost like grandparents and parents and stuff like that. He did lose his dad fairly young, early on in his WWE journey, but he told these fascinating stories, which is what this book is pretty much all about, in addition to just telling the truth, which I'll get to in a second. The stories that he tells in this book, not only when he was in WWE, but even well before WWE, and wanting to get to WWE, and having to contact the woman Sue, who works there. I'm not sure if she still does, but he had a very close relationship with her, and her getting him various gigs with WWE and whatnot. But on his way into WWE, when he was not a full-time announcer yet, his dad was sick, yet he was on the road with the company. And he was pretty brutally honest in the book, as he should have. He should not hold anything back, but he's not going out of his way to disparage the company, to talk bad about the WWE, to slander the WWE. He's merely recounting his experiences. So while he was on the road, despite his dad being sick, he's pretty miserable, and he was getting sick at various points. Not as sick as his dad, but like getting like sick with a cold and stuff like that. But like people would bully him, specifically JBL. And if you were a hardcore wrestling fan, you probably read it on the dirt sheets last year, the bad blood between Justin Roberts and JBL. And Justin never really fired at JBL at all. There's really no feud between the two. Justin merely wrote his book. He promoted the book in telling people that, yeah, the person I kind of talk about the most is JBL. And he really does not play like a huge role in the book. He just talks about JBL bullying him, which makes 100% sense, considering all the other stories we've heard from Joey Styles and the Blue Meanie and pretty much everyone else who has ever worked at WWE in the same time as JBL. That the guy's kind of a fucking asshole. He's kind of a bully. So he talks about that. Yet, despite going through those tough times, people like Finlay, Batista, I'm pretty sure he name dropped as well. Chris Benoit, which surprises me, but not really surprises me. Those people would get on the phone and talk to his dad. Chris Jericho being another one, which does not surprise me, considering how cool Chris Jericho is. Those people would get on the phone with his dad and tell him, hey dude, hope you're doing well. I know you saw me on TV this week, blah, 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 because his dad became a fan as well, and Justin watching, which is so fucking cool. And it really goes to show how down to earth these performers are. Besides JBL, he really does not rip in anyone in this book at all. And it's not even like he's ripping into JBL. Again, he's merely recounting his experiences and getting bullied by these people. Specifically JBL. Other than JBL, he does tell some stories about Triple H, which, again, I respect everything that Triple H has done for NXT and for the WWE and whatnot. And being Vince's son-in-law, obviously he has a ton of pull backstage, even more now than he did back then when Justin left in 2013 to 2014. You could probably tell that Triple H can be a dick. That should not come as any surprise. Even though Triple H has done a lot for the industry, and I respect the guy, I'm a big Paul Levesque fan. I've never been a big fan of Triple H, the wrestler, but behind the scenes you can kind of tell he has an ego, and that hasn't really changed, despite all that he's done for the WWE and will continue to do for the WWE moving forward. He and Justin never really got along. It was never really anything Justin did, from what Justin says in his book. It's really that Triple H was not a Justin Roberts fan. Maybe he wasn't a fan of the fact that maybe he wasn't a fan of the fact that Justin was a fan, or he just didn't like his personality. I'm not really sure. He never really explains, as obviously Justin never really had any clue up until the end that Triple H disliked him with a passion, if that is indeed accurate. But yeah, so that's really the brutally honest part of this book. It's not a fucking shoot book. I don't want people to go into this book thinking, oh my god, all he ever does is shoot in the WWE. He does shoot on his experiences. I hate even using the word shoot. He does talk honestly, open and honestly, about his experience at WWE. And although there are some negative experiences with people like Triple H and JBL and the management and Vince, especially Kevin Dunn, who got him a job in the first place, who he speaks highly of, but he also acknowledges that Kevin Dunn can be kind of a tool. The guy's kind of a dweeb in regards to how he acts towards certain people, how he treats certain people, and how they forget certain things that you tell them, and blah, blah, blah. And how they treat the fans and how they view the fans, which, again, comes across as complete genuine when he's talking about Kevin Dunn specifically. And I can believe everything he's saying in regards to Kevin Dunn. But he does have a lot of positive experience as well with the talent and many other fans. The Connor the Crusher, Connor Mahalik, who Justin, that whole thing blew my mind, because I had already kind of known about it from a couple of years ago. Justin wrote about it on a website, on one of his blogs, about how Connor, he was kind of responsible for bringing Connor into the fold. Daniel Bryan did play an important role as well. Daniel Bryan was like one of his favorite wrestlers. And you see a lot of footage of Daniel with Connor. I'm sure Daniel cared about Connor. But it was really Justin who kind of brought Connor behind the scenes and introduced him to Triple H and to Stephanie. And if it wasn't for Justin Roberts, you likely would not have Connor's care right now. Like, I'm going to go so far as to say that, because Justin played a very important role in getting Connor into the fold before he passed away early on in 2014. And stuff like that was really, according to Justin, like the light at the end of the tunnel. Because at one point, although he really, really wanted to work for WWE, it got to a point where he could not help but feel that he had to leave. That he really, really wanted to leave or get fired. He still did his job to the best of his ability, but he still really, really wanted to leave because he wasn't happy there anymore. He wasn't enjoying himself. But the experiences with the fans that he would have at the live events and on the shows and on the pay-per-views still made his time there worthwhile towards the end. Specifically Connor. So he goes into great detail about the experience with Connor, his father, the relationship he had with those guys, and everything else, and how disgenuine the company was, and kind of retelling Connor's story and leaving Justin Roberts out of the story. If you only watched the Connor the Cure stuff on TV without reading up about it, you would probably have like, Justin Roberts, who's that guy? How does he have anything to do with Connor? Because they never mentioned him once. They never interviewed him once about Connor. And I'm sure he does talk about being interviewed, but they never included the footage in like the mini documentary they put together for Raw or for TV, whatever, for their little campaign speech about Connor the Cure and everything else, Connor's Cure, whatever. So Connor the Crusher's Cure. But yeah, so it just really blew my mind. It's all not that surprising based off other stories we've heard about the company and how they treat their talent, and other people they just completely neglect because they're not a big star like Daniel Bryan or John Cena or Triple H or anyone else like that. So again, that's just merely a taste of what you can expect from this book. Written-wise, and this kind of goes, the style and the written and how it's written, this kind of goes with any other book review I've done in the last really the last number of months. Austin Aries' book was the same way. Mick Foley's book was the same way. He's got a great voice. I mean, obviously literally, but also writing voice too. There's a lot of paragraphs that are repeated. There's a lot of words that are just misspelled and stuff. That's merely nitpicking. That should not deter you from reading the book. And I've said that with Aries' book, with Foley's book. The guy was obviously not like an author to begin with. It's a pretty lengthy book. It's over 300 pages. Hence why it took me so long to read it. I got it when it first came out. I'm not sure if he has updated copies with fixed errors. I'm not sure if he finished writing it and didn't really proofread it, because there are some misspellings and, like I said, a lot of repeated paragraphs. So, again, it should not deter you from reading it. It's just merely a nitpick I should include here. But that really goes with any other wrestling book. That a lot of wrestling books are like that, because they're not authors. Justin's a great writer. He's not an author, and he was smart to keep like a journal of his ongoing experiences in WWE towards the end, so he could retell every experience he had in great detail, which he does in the book, which is awesome. There's nothing like, oh, this may have happened a couple of years ago, like maybe in 2011, maybe 2018. Like, he comes in with great detail and when things happen, how they happen, and who was involved in each experience, which is great. But going back to what I was saying before, I did get the book when it first came out through Amazon, and I just never had the time to read it, and I kept on putting other books in front of his. Finally got the chance to read it starting in October. Only just finished it a few weeks ago, in like late March, I think, maybe a little over a month ago, when I went to go visit my girlfriend, just because I was busy with other stuff. But did finish it finally, and it's well worth the read. I think I might have mentioned this when I talked about my Finn Balor video. I did have Finn Balor sign my Justin Roberts book, which is hilarious. You can see a little ticket they gave me right there. Just because that was the only thing I had with me when I met Finn Balor, and they were doing autographs in addition to the pictures. I thought I was just getting a picture. Turns out I was getting an autograph too. So I'm like, I have nothing else for him to autograph. What the fuck? I'll just have him sign my Justin Roberts book, which Finn Balor, Justin Roberts, complete two polar opposites, but it was funny. So I have Finn Balor's autograph in my Justin Roberts book. But anyway, guys, definitely check out Justin Roberts' books. Best Seat in the House, your backstage pass into my WWE journey, through my WWE journey. It's a great read, lengthy read, but not like too lengthy, just over 300 pages. But it's well worth the read. Very eye-opening to see how things work behind the scenes. And if you're like me, and if you've ever had aspirations of working for the WWE in any capacity, whether it be as a wrestler, behind the scenes, as a writer, photographer, whatever, you need to read this book. Now, it's one of those things where you're going to do what you want to do anyway. I still want to work for WWE in some role or some capacity even after reading this book. But he does tell it like it is in regards to the backstage environment. Not only back in the day, but even today as well. And I'm sure not much has changed. If the people on top are still on top, then they're going to, treat you probably the same way. But passion is passion. Justin is as one of the most passionate people you will ever meet, ever talk to, and that kind of shines through in this book. So, again, if you've ever had aspirations of working at WWE, definitely give this book a read. It's an eye-opening read, to say the least. But check it out. You also get to see how his not really firing, but his departure went down, and how they wanted to kind of go in a different direction with ring announcers, and they let Justin Roberts go at the end of 2014. That really had me hooked, to see how he got let go, his feeling towards it, if he saw it coming, how it was handled, and all this other stuff. So, again, check it out on Amazon. Another JustinRobertsBook.com, I believe it's also available at. Once again, it is Justin Roberts' Autobiography, Best Seat in the House, your backstage pass through my WWE journey. So again, thank you to Justin for all the help. I've been communicating with him back and forth on Twitter and whatnot. He follows me. So again, thank you, Justin. A huge fan if you're watching and listening to this. I doubt it. But I am a big fan of your work. And I will recommend, strongly suggest everyone else that they check out your book as well. So thank you guys for checking out my latest book review right here on the Random Video Blog. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. I will be back next Friday with another all-new Random Video Blog, but content is going up here on the channel every single day. So like I said, subscribe. All that being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.